It's what you've been waiting for. It's a locked on crossover, and we're going to be talking about West Virginia and Oklahoma State. Who needs this game more?
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. This is another edition of Locked On West Virginia, and we have the one and only Cody Stovall here today, and we're going to talk about quite a bit, man. And it's been two teams going in opposite directions, at least for the last week. But both have experienced their own turmoil this year. How is the riled up Oklahoma State fan base?
Well, they're exactly that, brother man. We're riled up, as we should be. The difficulty isn't necessarily in the game or the games that have happened. The difficulty for us is there seems to be a refusal to acknowledge the situation, right? Whenever our head coach comes out and says that nothing needs to be adjusted, well, that's a problem. When he comes out and said that the only reason Bowman played bad is because he threw it all daggone day, yeah, but that's a problem because we put him in a position where he had to throw all day. And everybody in the Big 12 is very well aware by now that Alan Bowman is not a quarterback that's going to throw a team on his shoulders and throw you out of a bad situation. We saw it at some point in times last season with UCF, right? Everybody remembers that debacle. Whenever Alan Bowman needed to put forth a crazy performance in the second half, it didn't happen. See, a lot of us, I think, got kind of sold a bill of goods when it came to Casey Dunn and the particular offense because of Spencer Sanders. I think we're realizing now how much of an asset Spencer was, not just because of the athletic capabilities, but I do think that Spencer at times would be able to take the game over athletically and overcome some of the deficiencies we have in coaching. The sad reality is we do have a lot of deficiencies, and it almost feels like there's a peeing contest right now going on between Mike Gundy and Casey Dunn. Like, I don't know what the deal is, and I don't know that the players know what the deal is. And we're not getting a lot of confidence out of our locker room or our coaching staff that they feel like resolving any of the issues. Like, that's the problem. And you mentioned we're going two separate directions, right? You started the season with a couple rough losses. Well, at least we now know Pitt is good and Penn State is that good, right? Penn State's offensive coordinator might be the most innovative coordinator that we've seen in quite some time. And we saw him at KU. And now we see KU without him, and KU looks horrendous. I mean, not that we have any room to talk, but our offense and KU's offense both look like they're driving the struggle bus and having a fight over who gets to be the lead driver. It's a disaster, man, and you guys are trending up, right? So we're going down. You have a quarterback, and we don't. You have a coordinator. We don't.
Well, let some West Virginia fans tell it. They think we should adopt the 2-minute drill for the entire game instead of the way Neal Brown runs his offenses, which is a little bit slower. And Neal Brown answered that question. He said, look, if we ran 2-minute all the time, people would have answers for that. You know, people have to prepare for our slowed down two-back attack that chews clock, and we have QB run game and we have shot plays. That's what people prepare for when they prepare for West Virginia, not a 2-minute drill. So when we run 2-minute and it looks good, there's a reason for that. It's because they don't practice against that all week, except for maybe in special situations. So that's been kind of the debate this week because we did so well in 2-minute last week against Kansas and against other teams this year, but that's why it's 2-minute drill. You know, a lot of teams.
And you know what? I think he's actually onto something there because we both previously, Oklahoma State and West Virginia, both ran some sort of iteration where the offense was extremely fast paced, where the objective was to get 70, 75 to 80 snaps offensively. And we also know that whenever it came down to trying to chew the clock, we weren't very good at it. If you're a team that goes fast all day, every day, and then you kind of have to ice the game and you're going against what you're used to, that's also a disaster. So I actually understand where Neal Brown's coming from there. Like you want it one way, but when you're so good at that, sometimes you're so mightily bad at the other area that it's almost more simplistic just to go old school if you have the running backs and the line capable of doing so.
Who do you think's more desperate for this win?
I mean, I think we need it more, right?
Yeah.
Because of expectations in Stillwater from a fan base perspective. I think a lot of people assumed West Virginia was going to be good after having a 9-win season and returning like 80-something% of your roster. But I can tell you, I don't think that West Virginia fans expected to win the Big 12 title. I don't think that y'all expected to be in the CFP. We did. Like, we brought back everybody, 20 returning starters, almost 90% of the roster. So because of that, we were able to raise our expectations. Let's face the drum that OU and Texas are no longer in the way. And anybody not named OU didn't win more games than us in the Big 12. So it almost felt like a rite of passage, and it was the right time for Gundy to get involved in NIL and us be able to come up with a package to keep Ollie Gordon and the O-lineman and Nick Martin and Colin Oliver. But we're not playing like it, and our coaches are not coaching with any sense of urgency. That's, again, the biggest frustration is our offensive coordinator and our head coach are walking around talking about how everything's fine. I mean, I guess if you want to say that the Big 12 got flipped on its head over the weekend, from that standpoint, it's technically fine, right? Because now nobody's really out of the Big 12 title race. If there's a benefit to this weekend, it's that it was a train wreck that flipped everything on its head.
100%. I've never seen a team with 5 6-year seniors on the offensive line. That's got to be the first in history. It's got to be the first in history.
Well, I know it's the first time we've ever returned 20 starters. I know that.
Yeah. And it's wild that you guys are in this situation. Obviously, we expected more as well. Can't be mad at losing to Penn State. Pitt turned out to be better, like you said. But I think it's the defense. That's where we lack our consistency, obviously. And while we're not sure, last year scares a lot of us because of how that game turned out, obviously, with Ollie just going off in the fourth quarter. Look at you smile and remembering that. But, and Bowman looked good against us last year. It's not lost on me. He played well, and Presley diced us up too.
Well, yeah, thankfully, offensively, we have enough weapons. But again, that's part of the frustration and you saw parts of the old Ollie Gordon return for Kansas State, but then he only got the ball 15 times.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we are beating our head up against a wall, and we're offensively trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And it's so frustrating that everybody can see it. Like, you don't have to be a football savant to watch an Oklahoma State game and see that there's a disconnect somewhere, whether it's between the players and the coaches or the coaches and the coaches. Just there's a massive disconnect offensively, and there doesn't seem to be anybody, at least publicly, that wants to fix it. Everybody's just expecting it to magically resolve itself, and that's the biggest problematic issue. So again, I would say that we're more desperate than West Virginia fans because you guys are trending up. You have some things to look towards positively. You mentioned your defense. We don't even know what our defense is.
Yours is worse somehow.
They're on the field for 45 minutes a game. So, we don't know if they're good or not.
Yeah.
Because they
you're out the best linebacker in the conference, too.
Well, and I don't know if you saw, but he gets hurt at the very end of K-State.
I saw that.
And it's like the game's over. Like, what are we doing?
I don't know. Continuity. We're trying to keep people on the field. Yeah.
It's a wild time. But you know what? One thing that we can both look forward to is one of us has to win this game, which means one of us is going to have the potential capabilities, at least, to maximize on some potential FanDuel dollar bills, right? If we're going to look at the positives, that's got to be the biggest positive of today. And with that being said, we do have to roll right into here, letting everybody know that if you want to take a break from college football because it might be a little bit crazy, or you just want to maximize your money with the West Virginia Mountaineers, if the Cowboys are struggling, right now you can get a big return on FanDuel. It is America's #1 sports book for those reasons. When you get that little tingling sensation in the middle of the game that Ollie Gordon's about to do something wild or Garrett Green's about to bust it loose, you can now check the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and much more on the same exact page where you're going to be making your money, honey. Place your bets because now you'll get started with $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. All you got to do is place a $5 bet. Get that $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed with your $5 bet by going to FanDuel.com today. It is the best in the land, America's #1 sports book for a reason. Get in on the action today with FanDuel.com. All right, so from making the FanDuel money, we got to focus on some of the key players. And I think everybody that's followed Big 12 football for quite some time is very well aware that the difficulty with Garrett Green is athletically he can do everything that Avery Johnson can do, but he has some of the same limitations as Avery Johnson when it came to the passing department, or at least that has been the consensus, right?
Right.
But I think one of the biggest benefits that you guys have had is the ability in the backfield, not just with C.J. Donaldson, but it goes beyond that. I think West Virginia has had a 1,000-yard running back for most of the last 15 years, right? That seems to be a position West Virginia never really has a big issue with.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a lot to do with, especially just say, let's go with the last 6. Chad Scott, the offensive coordinator, although he doesn't call the plays. He handles the running backs, and he is elite, absolutely elite at choosing running backs and developing running backs. He just is. And, you think about last year or the year before what he did. He took a tight end out of high school and made him into C.J. Donaldson. He took Jaheim White, who nobody wanted, out of PA, and turned him into one of the best freshman running backs in the country last year by the numbers, almost 8 yards a carry. And although he has kind of fallen off, we're wondering if it's a sophomore slump. He's just not performing to the level CJ has been. CJ is literally almost a clone of Ollie Gordon, although he's not as high end as Ollie Gordon, but he is a lot like Ollie Gordon and has played really well this year. So a running back room, definitely fun to look at, and definitely key players in that room. They've talked about getting others involved there. Obviously, looking at your end of it, Ollie Gordon it has to be a key player in every matchup and every game. He's keyed on by the staff. Has to be the #1 thing you take away from, given Alan Bowman's struggles.
Right. Well, it's very clear that if you're watching how to prepare for Oklahoma State, right, just do what everybody else has done. Put 73,000 people in the box and force Alan Bowman to throw it down the field, and you see what the result, unfortunately, has been. So we understand CJ is a bad man in the jam. I think he's at like 5.3 yards per carry. Then you have Garrett Green, who, again, much like Avery Johnson's at 4.6 yards per carry. Whenever you go beyond those guys, who is somebody at the wide receiver position that you need to pay attention to? Because I will tell you, everybody in Cowboy country is still rooting for Jaden Bray. We all hope that he doesn't have a big game this Saturday, but outside of that, man, watching Jaden Bray flourish and Stephon Boogie Johnson and John Paul Richardson, that has been kind of fun. So outside of Bray, who do y'all have that we need to pay attention to the wide receiver corps?
Well, and our tight end Cole Taylor is somebody I was going to throw in there. He's 6'7", 240 pounds. He caught almost 40 balls last year, 4 touchdowns. And he has really been a weapon for us this year, probably our most consistent receiver. But Hudson Clement, obviously, he was a walk-on. Nobody wanted him. He broke onto the scene last year, led us in certain areas and receiving yards and different things. So he absolutely dominated last week against 2 of the best corners in the Big 12 in Kansas. Neither Mello or Kobe could guard him. He kept getting off their man coverage, and huge step for him because he was a freshman last year and we weren't sure what he was going to do. So he is somebody to watch, and he is right around 6 feet tall. He's a great route runner. And we're going to see what kind of step he takes this week against a struggling pass defense, which is shocking to say with Oklahoma State because I usually think good defense with you guys. And then obviously we need another receiver, but Rodney Gallagher would probably be the next guy that I look at because he caught the game-winning touchdown last week. And was, he was a highly rated 4-star player out of PA. Everybody wanted him. We got him because he's a West Virginia fan growing up. So I would say him, because of what happened last week. And he was a quarterback in high school, so he's kind of converted. He's learning the position. Seems to be doing well with it. What about you guys, though? Obviously, Presley, you look at Bowman, you look at Gordon. I mean, that's a 3-headed monster for any offense. What's wrong with you?
you have the names everybody typically knows: Ollie Gordon, Alan Bowman. I think a wide receiver to pay attention to, other than DeJon Striverling and Brendan Presley, is going to be Talon Shetron. Talon Shetron is one of those big time gets that we were able to convince to come to Oklahoma State instead of go to OU. He was the number one player in Oklahoma. And he's had some injuries that have kind of plagued him, which is why Rashad Owens has been called upon. And Rashad Owens is a very good wide receiver in his own right. But Talon Shetron kind of has the ability to take the top off of the defense. And then speaking of defensively, you did mention that we have some limitations, absolutely. But again, I almost feel bad for Brian Nardo because there are times, there's stretches in the games where he has multiple, defensive stops or turnovers, and then we don't help him, right? We go out on the field and we have a 3-and-out. So when your defense has been out there for 45 minutes in the game and you get one more stop and then your offense goes 3-and-out, or they throw a pick in the very first pass, I can only imagine, right, how debilitating that can be. And you've been covering football long enough. You've been in the locker rooms and understand that there is a dichotomy in there. And as much as everybody wants to pretend there's never animosity, that's bull honky. We're normal people in the locker room. So you do have feelings, you have emotions, and trust and believe, like you talk in your dorm about how, oh yeah, that dude is trash. Or, oh yeah, that dude, he should be our guy. You have these conversations. And it seems as though I would assume that the defense is starting to get to a point of frustration. And now it's crossing over to anger, because now our best players are starting to get hurt on defense, not because they're putting in opportune situations, but it's because we're asking them to play 70 snaps, 85 snaps.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you can't do that. You cannot stay healthy throughout the course of a season if your defense is on the field for 42 to 45 minutes a game. You ain't going to keep anybody healthy.
That's absolutely correct, man. No doubt about it.
It's less about the names with Oklahoma State and more about depth. And we're already getting to some of the depth layers, right? Trey Rucker and Nick Martin are 1 and 2 in the conference in tackles, as they should be. But a name that's been able to fill in quite admirably for Colin Oliver is number 33, Obi Ezegbo, coming in from Gannon. He's a very, very good fill-in for Colin Oliver. Defensive line, key players to watch out for are, I don't know any of them, because as underwhelming as our offensive line has been, our D-line has been equally as frustrating. Like, we don't create holes offensively, and we don't get push on the D-line, which does what? It leaves those guys in the back end hanging out to dry, because you can only cover wide receivers for so long. In a scramble drill, the quarterback and the wide receiver will always have the advantage every single time. Right? Yep. Because as a defender, you have a general understanding of what route tree is coming based on the formation, so on and so forth. So you know one of 5 routes is coming your way. So you can plan on those routes. When you see things break certain ways, then you can break off of your coverage and, go get picks and all the fun stuff. Well, it's really hard to do that when the other team doesn't even know what they're doing. Like, I don't know if we know what we're doing. So defense definitely don't know. And then in a scramble drill, the only people who know are the quarterback and the wide receiver, right? Then the DB is just playing catch up. So I don't know, man.
One other thing I want to point out really quick, I think a huge impact, obviously, on this game. I don't know if anybody's paid attention, but West Virginia leads the Big 12 in quarterback pressures, and is top 10 in the country in that stat. TJ Jackson comes over from Troy and has an enormous number of quarterback pressures, over 20 so far this year from the defensive tackle spot. He is very much like Dante Stills was at West Virginia, who was there forever and ever. And then Tyron Bradley right alongside him. West Virginia has 95 quarterback pressures on the year, a metric ton. If you watched the Pitt game, you saw that Eli Holstein was under duress the entire game, somehow still made it happen. But, I mean, they sacked him several times, hit him multiple times more. An interesting stat from that game, Eli Holstein had 70 yards after contact rushing because he got away from so many. So, obviously, they didn't get him on the ground as much as they needed to. TJ Jackson will be a huge player in this game.
TJ Jackson is the real deal. Like, he leads the Big 12 in tackles for loss. I think he's second in sacks, and he's an absolute force. Yeah, I don't know how you slow that action down. Maybe we can get him to over pursue, but again,
that people have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know that Alan Bowman is going to be an individual that will cause somebody to have a lot of
get him off
pursuit.
Spot, it's a wrap, right?
Yeah.
If you leave him on his spot, though, if you leave Bowman on his spot, he can get you.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely moments where Alan Bowman does look like a serviceable guy, but not always, buddy. Not always. And that's the scary part.
Yep.
I tell you what is not scary is if you don't have tickets to this game, you don't need to freak out because Game Time Tickets has you covered no matter what. Whenever you're looking to get squared away with tickets, the beauty of Game Time is it doesn't matter if you're getting tickets at the very start of the event or even up to an hour after, because the prices just keep getting better. And with the Game Time picks, it allows you to get tickets for your favorite event even easier. Right now, you can get squared away with cutting out all the crazy stuff and all the fluff to get the best deals without you having to search through thousands of tickets for thousands of minutes. Game Time Picks allows you to save more on sports, concerts, music, theater. It's not just about the footballs, basketball, baseballs. You can get all the other stuff with it as well. Y'all know my favorite part is the seat view. The panoramic view from your seat is in the app, so there's no craziness of you getting put in the wrong section, wrong ticket, none of that. With the lowest price guaranteed, it means Game Time will credit you back 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the industry. You need to take the guesswork out of you buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that is LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create that account, redeem that code for $20 off. Download Game Time today because you know what it is. It's game time. Hi, buddy.
All right.
It's the who wins
it's the time to do the things.
Fun time.
Yeah, it's that time. You asking me first?
Well, yeah. Hit me.
This is a tough one, because we were the get right game for you guys last year, and I feel like we're in that spot again, right? I think you guys were probably even more pissed this time last year, considering South Alabama beat you. And right. I watched them get absolutely dump trucked yesterday, by the way. Or Saturday. This is a tough call. I've thought about it all week, and I looked at your defense before Kansas State. And you were last in defense, total defense, going into that game in the pass and run defense, albeit because they've been put in bad positions. I get that. West Virginia's defense, not much better on the back end. But here's where I think the difference in the game will be. Can those 5-6-year seniors you guys have hold up against one of the best pass rushers in the league? I don't know. I have to expect TJ and Tyron Bradley to do what they've done all year long. They're going to force Bowman into some bad throws. I think they're going to get a turnover or two if they can slow down Ollie. If they can't, it's a wrap for the West Virginia Mountaineers. We're going home. Oklahoma State walks away with a win because Ollie Gordon, if he gets going, it's over. But they're going to key on him, obviously. I think they're going to be able to hold him to right around 130, 140 yards because we've been not great on run defense. So I'm going to pick West Virginia to win this game by 3 points. I think it's going to be still a higher scoring game. I'm going to say 37-34 West Virginia in walk-off fashion.
Well, I wish I had the same level of confidence. I mean, actually, you know what? I do have the same level of confidence as you because I also am going to pick West Virginia to win the daggone game. There's nothing that shows me there's any indication by this coaching staff to either acknowledge the issue or try to fix the issue. So if you've watched the last two games, we struggle to score points, period. Just any kind, any variety. And outside of a couple scripted drives, I don't know that we're going to be good enough to counterbalance the fact that Garrett Green, if he gets loose and he causes problems, I don't think we have the ability to come back. If it gets in a shootout style of scenario, I don't think that favors us. So if I'm West Virginia, just get out to a hot start, put pressure on Oklahoma State, and you've probably got the game figured out. Unless we do something crazy like switch it up at quarterback, or find a new offensive coordinator off of the street.
What's your thought on Rangel?
I mean, I think, the sample size that he has been put in the game he hasn't been very good, right? We'll just call a spade a spade. But I do think that people also have that old memory of Garrett Rangel 2 years ago in the rain, got his first start against West Virginia. And he was 182 pounds, soaking wet, and he struggled mightily. I think that's the vision that everyone still has of Garrett. Yeah. The last time he was out, he didn't play very good either, right? But I want to see what the new 6'3", 212-pound quarterback that can run a 4.59 40. I would like to see what that version of Garrett Rangel can do with the full week's plate of the starters install. If it's still abysmal, then we have to find a way to get more production somehow, some way, man.
Is there any chance that quarterback change is made this week?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I really it just, for some reason, it feels like Mike Gundy has just decided, come hell or high water, that it's going to be Alan Bowman. Whether that means we win 5 games or 10 games, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, the poor fella, he's got a wife and kids to feed now, right? I don't know if he's actually married, but he's that age,
Yeah, no, he is, and you are on to something there. But yeah, goodness me, I don't know very many jobs where you can essentially fail miserably, lose half your clientele and still keep your job. But I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a tall, loud, bearded fellow that hops in front of a microphone.
Yeah. Appreciate you for coming on, brother. And it's been fun on this Locked On crossover. It's going to be a fun game Saturday. And one thing's for sure is one fan base is going to be really disappointed, and another fan base is going to be just calling for somebody else's job, possibly. I don't know if it'll be Gundy, or if it would definitely probably be Brown. But I think, West Virginia's got a really tough stretch coming up, so we'll see. We need this one though to actually be in the race, because it's K-State, it's Iowa State, it's Arizona, it's you guys all in a row. So,
your schedule doesn't do you any favors.
No, but it does look better considering what's happened. K-State losing early, Arizona looked bad against K-State, which teams have looked bad. Even UCF now looked bad, which I was worried about them. Colorado now looks kind of good, which I just think UCF is more fool's gold than Colorado is good, if you want to ask me, but could be wrong on that.
Hey man, I said it the other day and I'll stand by it. The Big 12 is officially more bipolar than my ex. We don't know what's happening from 1 minute to the next, from one Saturday to the next. We think we've got it figured out. We're like, okay, these are the 4 front runners. And then the very next Saturday, you're like, oh, never mind. We got to find 4 more.
This is the dark horse. These are the front runners. Texas Tech last year was a dark horse.
Yeah.
No.
All I know is we're 13th place in the Big 12 right now, and I don't think I ever thought that they would come.
No, I put money on you guys, or I would have put money on you guys before the year to be a top 2.
Dude, we're 0-2 for the first time in 19 years. Nobody saw this coming.
It ain't over yet. I'm just going to say that. It was this time last year it was over for you guys, and it wasn't over. So I'm not saying it yet.
You know what? I appreciate your glass half full philosophy, Mountaineer Paul. I needed that injection of positivity in my life today.
You got it.
Because there's not a lot of it, dude. There's not a lot of it.
It's been fun, man. Thank you guys for joining this episode of Locked On Crossover. Don't forget to follow Cody Stovall on All Day O-State. And I am at Paul Mountaineer on X. Thank you guys. Make sure you subscribe over there to Cody Stovall if you're a West Virginia person. And if you're an Oklahoma State person and you like how I get down, please hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys for joining in. I think this is it, man. I'm done. You got anything else to add?
No, I guess I'll give a score since I'm a glutton for punishment. 31-21 Mountaineers.
Well, I'll be a happy fella if that happens. So we'll see.
They taught us, I know you were in the Marine Corps, but they taught us both to just embrace the suck. So that's what I'm doing, man. That's what I'm doing. I'm embracing it.
We have the picture in almost every recruiting office and everywhere we would go. It says we didn't promise a rose garden. It's got the drill instructor yelling in the face. It's about what it's like. Thank you guys for making Locked On West Virginia and Oklahoma State your first listen today. Do us a favor. For your second listen, find Locked On College Football. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, guys, thank you for this rendition of Locked On Crossover. We will see you Saturday. We'll probably be doing post-game shows on Saturday. We'll see you then.